All right. Welcome, everyone. It's another release party time. Just 3 times a year we meet here, but good enough, I guess. Today we have, again, Matt. Say hi, Matt.
Hi,
We
Matt.
also have we also have Rachel and Khalid here.
Hi, everybody.
And together we will walk you through a couple of things that we added in the latest release, the 2022.3 release for ReSharper and Rider. And yeah, just as always, let me put my mouse here. If you have any questions, just please let us know. This is a place for exchange of ideas, and if you have anything on your mind, just let us know, and we will try to include this as we go. Also, if you have to continue the party at a later time, please do so. This is going to be recorded immediately, so you can continue on demand. Okay, so everyone ready for this?
Yes.
I
Was that enthusiastic enough? Do we need to be more enthusiastic?
Yeah, I was hoping for that, actually.
Yes, come on.
All right, I will start with something about performance. So maybe you have seen this already, but Martin wrote a blog post around how we improve performance inside Rider, which is actually really, really interesting for several reasons, because many things come from different components. Let's say we did some optimizations in the virtual file system, which basically comes from IntelliJ IDEA. We have a new checkbox for Windows Defender exclusion, which makes things a bit easier. We also have, like we call it smarter loading of metadata for what the ReSharper host basically needs to instantiate in the background. Also, we switched to server GC in the background, so server garbage collection, as well as for MS Build. And also we have, that's pretty interesting because very recently I got this question, like maybe you've happened to hear about Fleet as well. And there was a question about if there are some synergies between those two. And that's actually a time where I can say yes here, because we also have a new lightweight parser that we use inside Fleet. And that is now also included in Rider. So you should see meaningful syntax highlighting, etc., already during your solution is being loaded. And of course, the full-fledged highlighting and support once everything is loaded. Yeah, if you want to read on, there's a great blog post about this that Martin was offering. Okay, as per my agenda, Matt, you're the next, right? With 2 small things.
Yeah, that's me. So
can I get your
small things.
Screen already?
Yeah. There we are. That's
Okay.
me. Yeah, so I'm just going to start with a couple of simple things as well. Firstly, ARM64 support. We have had ARM64 support for Mac in the product for a little while now, obviously with Apple Silicon and so on. This release, we've got the initial support for Windows and Linux as well, so that's nice. So if you've got a fancy new ARM64 based machine for Windows and Linux, you can download and give it a go and see how it works for you. It should be working mostly fine. There are a couple of sort of known issues. For example, Unreal Engine support isn't going to be supported there, as Epic don't support it on ARM64, and we're still sort of working really on a few other things as well. But generally speaking, it should be good. The other notice that I want to do is WSL2 support for remote development. Now, this is really cool. And sadly, I'm on a Mac, which makes it a little tricky to demo this. But the idea of this is that you can use WSL, the Windows subsystem for Linux, as a host for your remote development. That means you can have the source code living on your WSL instance, same as the IDE itself, all the dependencies. Basically, you're developing on Linux, but the user interface is displayed on your Windows instance, which is really nice. It's a nice way of working. We've got this support then for various different platforms, such as remote developments in JetBrains Space, Gitpod, GitHub CoSpaces, Google Cloud, Amazon, and now you can also do it in WSL as well. It's very easy to go up. If you've got WSL already set up, you click the button, walk through a few steps on the a wizard step there. It downloads the IDE into the WSL instance for you and starts everything up, connects you up, and then displays the client as a Windows application, and you get to use it as normal. So that's really cool. You can give that a go. Just click and try it out yourself. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is the new UI, which is pretty cool. We've been working on a refresh of the user interface, and it is available as a preview in this release now. So it's very easy to get up and running with that. We've got a little settings page under appearance there. You've got a checkbox, enable new UI, check that, restart, and you'll get the new experience there. It's not the default right now. It's still in preview, still working on it, still refining it, but you can give it a go and try it for yourself. It's just basically a new sort of lick of paint for the user interface. It's a bit cleaner, a bit fresher, a bit more modern, and the changes really are around the edges there. You can see that we've changed the tabs, which toggle tool windows on and off for these nice buttons down here, and just easy way of opening your tool windows and navigating around. We've got the ones down the bottom here control the horizontal toolbars at the bottom. You can also have sort of two toolbars going on at the same time there as well. And we've got them sort of basically all the way around, nice and fresh and lovely. And the big change really, I guess, is the main toolbar. You can see it's been a lot simplified there, and we've got a few sort of widgets going on at the top here. We've got our project widget there. You can easily select something, type to search, get there, and open and work with your projects as you would normally. Version control is front and center. You can see what branch you're on. You can get, fetch, push, commit, mess with your branches and so on. And you can get to the operations pop-up here. And this is a great example, actually, of one of the things I really like about the new UI there. This is one of the pop-ups that we've had for ages, but it just looks so much nicer. It's cleaner, it's nicer, it's just, yeah, it's really nice. You might get the fact that I like the UI. I've been using it for a while now, and it's really good. Top right, we've got a couple of buttons in the top there for settings. Another one which will sort of do the search everywhere for us. And one thing which is really useful, top tip, is this Actions tab here, which has been there for ages. Find Action. It's got a keyboard shortcut, so you can jump straight to it. But it's a great way of finding any action that you want, if you can type, any action that you want in the IDE itself. So you don't need to be having all the buttons on the toolbar, all the menu items that are there as well, which is a good point as well, because we've got all these menu items here. There's loads of them going on there. I never use them, to be honest. I always use Find Action and start searching. But if you're on Windows, you're going to find that the main menu has been hidden behind one of the burger icons. And if you don't like that, you can tweak it, you can change it and put it back to how you like. But give it a go, give the Find Actions a go, and I think you'll start to like it. It's a very nice sort of way of working. Run widgets we've got going on up here as well.
Matt, I have one question. How did you manage to have the title bar in black and the rest is light? That's
right.
funny,
Well, that's
for me both is light if I choose light.
Right. Well, that's wrong button. That's the default themes that we've got going at the moment. So that's another thing which is quite useful. And in fact, let me go back up to this. The icon at the top right here. We've got a theme switcher going on here, so we can click on the theme. And we've got two new default themes, light and dark. These are the themes that have been designed for the new UI. And if you use those, you get light with a dark header, or just plain dark like that. You can still use the sort of existing ones that you know and love, but these haven't been designed for the new UI, and so there might be some issues going on there. So you might, padding and sizing and so on. So if you use light and dark, what you can do then as well is bring up the quick color switcher, and you can actually do the edit color scheme, and you can have something like the Rider melon light and change the editor colors without it changing the rest of the theme colors, which is very useful. So try and stick with the light and dark, and use whichever editor color theme that you're interested in. So the other things I want to show you then was the run config box up at the top right here. Nice box for finding out what it is you want to run. Click on that. You can select recent configurations, and you've got single click buttons to run and debug. You've got the All Configurations button here, which will pop you up your list of everything that's available. You can edit your configurations as you would normally. You can run, you can debug, you can then click and do profiling and whatnot from there if it's available for the target that you're actually trying to use. But I did say this is in preview. There's a couple of things which are missing as far as Rider is concerned. This UI, we've got 12 IDEs basically, and it's a bit tricky to design a new UI which covers all the features across all the IDEs. So we've done like the base level platform for IntelliJ IDEA, and the other IDEs are now starting to sort of add their polish to it. So you might notice that we don't have the options to select the solution configuration, whether it's release or debug mode. But we can tweak that. We can right-click, customize toolbar. If I just close that down a little bit and select that, I can go add an action, main menu, build, and here I could add build solution if I wanted to, or active configuration, and just make sure that's in the right place. And now we can see we've got our drop-down item that we've got going on here. We can do the same over on this side as well. Oh, missed. If I right-click and do customize toolbar, I can add another action. And let's go back to main menu, build. I'm going to choose active device because I've got a MAUI project here, and I want to be able to select the device for it. And this now allows me to do that. So that gives me all the device options that I've got. So that's the new UI. It's a new coat of paint. It looks very nice. It's really nice to use. It's as I say, it's fresh, it's clean, it's a bit more modern. Give it a go, see how you get on with it. You can tweak things if you need to. You can use find actions to get to stuff which might be moved around, and it works, and it's all very nicely. Now, the next thing I want to talk about with UI, though, is the first steps we're making towards working with multi-monitors, multi-monitor scenarios a bit better. So this has been a very common request over the years that we want people to be able to use multiple monitors there. We've got tool windows, which we can dock on the side here. We can drag them out. We can have them floating. I can dock them back in again. And all is good, but people want a little bit more control over them. If we've got floating tool windows there, we can't do too much with it. If I drag that onto a second window, I end up then with second monitor, I end up with lots of different windows open. And so one of the things we've done in this release is if we've got floating editors, so I can drag an editor out and pretend that's on another monitor. I say I've got a couple of those going on. We fixed a bunch of issues around DPI and windows on that, so those work a whole lot better. But now we can also drag our tool windows over here as well. We can dock things against the second instance and the third instance and so on as well. So we can have more complex setups than we've previously been able to have. And this can be nice for things like taking the database tool window. Any tool windows which are hidden, by the way, we've got a nice little more button here. So I can grab that, and I can take this database tool window, put it over here, and then on my second monitor, I could have the database connections and the console queries and the results all displayed there, and then on my main monitor have my code. So it's a nice way of working with sort of multiple monitors. And I think that basically covers everything I wanted to look at with the UI. So is it handing back over to Matthias?
I can, yeah. I just wanted to say.
Do we have any questions so far?
I have one good comment. Good thing about the old UI, it looks more impressive to the average layperson walking by. but I gotta say, many people probably don't know this, but Matt did a huge part of pushing this feature of tool windows, floating tool windows. So I think he deserves a lot of applause for that.
Well, that's very nice. I was trying to nerd snipe Martin, to be honest, but I ended up with a self nerd snipe. So, well done me.
All right. I hope I didn't miss anything. I'm next. What I also want to say, the drill. Usually it's always nice because we have almost 70 people watching. Please let us know from where you're tuning in. That's always nice to know. Okay, I have two more things, actually pretty small things. But if you use the search pop-up to search something, then usually there was in versions before this happened to be reordered as you were typing or as you were scrolling through, let's say. This is something that we fixed. So now it's static as soon as you stop typing. And the second one, and I guess also many people will appreciate that this finally happened, is that now, before there were some scrolling issues in the NuGet tool window, so that's also fixed. Then I have another feature, see Matt, floating window, pretty interesting feature, and that is paste JSON as class. So I want to show you this very briefly. So let's suppose we have copied some JSON, just like this. Then we can search for JSON paste, and we can either choose to paste it as a class or a record, whatever you prefer. So let's try record, and you will see this, and it basically takes the structure of your JSON and puts that into types. Or, like I said before, we could also use classes. One thing, because I got reminded so much about this, if you happen to want to fix the casing, for instance, let's say like this here in the front, then you can do this with multiple cursors. So this is for this use case. This is pretty interesting, I think. If you have prefer this Pascal casing and you can arrange it with the serializer, then go for it. Okay, now I have Khalid as the next. Khalid, ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I will add your screen live.
Yeah, so Matt is going to be showing some Unity and some Unreal stuff later. But if you're working with those kind of tools and you're working with .NET, sometimes you're going to want to attach to a process. So we actually have a new attach to process dialog that you can see right here. I'll actually make it a little bigger. And it just makes it a lot nicer to attach to any process that's currently running on your machine. Will default to local, and you actually have different views. So you can have a complete list view, or you can have a tree. So if you have parent processes and child processes, you can kind of see them in place here. Funny thing is, everything on macOS is launched from launchd, so it's just the parent. Another nice thing you can do, if you have .NET processes and you want to find them, you can actually come over here and choose what kind of process you want. So I'm guessing Unreal runs as native because it's C++, but we also have a specific section for Unity processes as well. So you can kind of come in here and kind of filter down to the things that you want. Here's a good example of the tree view with Rider and all of its .NET processes. Another thing you're going to notice is we actually tell you what available debuggers there are for each process. So if there's an opportunity to debug it in native or in .NET, because there's multiple aspects to that process, if you come in here, you select it, you can actually choose what debugger you want to attach into. So that's kind of a nice feature, especially for kind of those multi-paradigm processes. Like for .NET, you can debug it in .NET or in the native debugger, which is LLDB. So, and yeah, that's all local, but you can also do that remotely. So you can add a connection, and that actually occurs via SSH. So yeah, if you can connect to a remote instance via SSH and download our remote debugging tools, you can attach to any process remotely. So that also includes things like WSL. So that's technically a remote connection. So yeah, this is kind of how that stuff would work here. So that's the new attach to process window. Give that a try. It should make attaching to processes a lot easier. What else do I have to show you? We did rework the copy and paste. So right now I'm in a Markdown file, but this also kind of works in C# files. By selecting a line and hitting Command-C, which is what copy is on macOS, Windows is Control-C, we'll actually highlight the whole line and copy that into the clipboard. And then if you move the cursor to any line and hit Command-V, which will paste the line, it'll actually paste it above the current selected line. So that's kind of a nice quality of life improvement to the copy and paste behavior. You can also see it happen here as well. So I'll copy this, go to the next line, and it kind of does the same thing. So some folks might notice it, some folks might not, but it's one of those things that we think will make your editing experience a lot better inside of Rider. The next thing I kind of want to talk about, we added actually 2 new context menu actions, but you'll only see these context menu actions from the file system, although this one actually works in both ones. So this one only works from the file system. But if you're working in a large solution with a lot of folders and you want to open a terminal window directly to that folder, instead of opening a terminal window and typing CD and then typing that whole path, now you can just right click, go to open in, and just click terminal. And what we'll do is we'll open a terminal instance scoped to that folder. So I just did that on the migrations folder. And now you can see that my path is in that directory. If I do ls, you'll kind of see the folders in there. That's really helpful if you're writing projects that have like scripts or, with Entity Framework Core, sometimes you need to run the database commands in a particular folder scoped to the project. So that's super helpful there. The other thing you can do now, I know several people like to work in the file system rather than, say, in the solution view. So if you need to open things, specifically solution files, you can now do that. And let's see here, where is it? Open solution. So right now I don't have open solution here because I'm in this solution. But I have a solution filter included in this project. And I can now right click and say open solution right from the file system. So those are some really nice new experiences that you get with Rider. And I think right now I'm going to throw back to Matthias. Is that correct?
Correct. Let me add my screen. Well, one thing, because I always forget it. Rider, what we do with Rider is always to support multiple use cases. And what Khalid mentioned about open terminal from the Solution Explorer or file system view, there was an action before. So if you're in a file, you can also just type open terminal, and then it will go to the folder that current file is. So this is also nice. But yeah, like I said, it's sometimes workflow specific. So sometimes you have the mouse in reach, so why not use the mouse? Sometimes you're at the keyboard and it might also work. Okay, my next part is about C#. But before I start with that, because I asked before where people are tuning in from, so we have people from still above 70, by the way. From Poland, from Pakistan, from Melbourne, Australia. Funny story, we were considering having a second edition of the release stream, so 2 times per day, just to have also cover people from the other side of the world. But yeah, great that you're tuning in as well. So Portugal, also Seychelles, I hope I pronounced it correctly, India, Iceland. So yeah, almost around the world. Let me continue with C#, what we added in terms of C# support. So one, at least for me, very, very minor thing is we now have this conversion for UTF-8 strings. So C#11 introduces UTF-8 strings, and you get quick fixes to convert those to UTF-8 strings. So before, you often had, sorry, I have different key bindings now that I'm on Windows. But before, you were faced with rather, let's say, suboptimal solutions to produce those, either with a byte array or this UTF-8 get bytes. Personally, I must say I've never had the need for it. but would be interesting if any one of you uses this in, you know, network stack or something. Please let me know at least. Then there's also file local types. So if you haven't heard about those, now classes, or not just classes, but any types, can have the file modifier. And that means that this type is not accessible from outside the file. So if I was to go to, let's say, here, and use the don't show anywhere else, something like this, and let's create a new instance from that, you know, just to make something compile. And now I'll go back, and actually I should use the CA, yeah, the context action. So to file local, then here you will see this cannot be accessed because it's not in the same file. Of course, through CA, you should also be able to remove that again. And also, this is a tiny little thing about fixing code. Nested types cannot add the file modifier a second time. So this will just be removed or replaced with private. File local types. Static virtual members in default members of interfaces. And that's always nice to say. But what you're now allowed to do is to define static members in interfaces. Personally, I can recommend you, Nick Chapsos has a good episode about these with a great example. But in very short, what it can do is defining members as static. So that means that the type that implements this interface, so this is our implementation, this is the interface, and it defines it as static abstract. And if we want to use this member, of course, we don't have to instantiate it because it's a static member. Yeah. Before that existed, we often had to do something like this, like adding a new constraint for new, or use activator create instance, stuff like this. With static members or static virtual members, you can actually write something like this. So like T, text, etc. Yeah, okay, wrong completion. What we added here is, or basically we just completed existing features. Like for instance, we have the generate, which will generate the static member, or also, and this is interesting because it doesn't actually use the override keyword, but still it will trigger. So you have code completion to implement the text property, and then it creates it like this. Yeah. Also, from here, there are a couple of context actions for the static abstract member, so you can convert it to virtual or to non-abstract. The next on my list is pattern matching over spans. Small thing, but I just want to show it briefly. So we recognize this sequence equals call. Yeah, this is a read-only span. You know, if you're a performance curious person, developer. Then with these sequence equals calls, we can actually convert this and just use pattern matching, which is also pretty nice. Okay, let me see. Yeah, I forgot one thing to put in my agenda here. We also added some things about list patterns, some really nice things. So for instance, I guess this looks kind of familiar. People have written code like this. You know, first we check for length of an array, then check if one argument is -- help, just to capture the second argument. Just look how nice this looks if we merge it into a pattern. Yeah, this is using list patterns. So the first element should be -- help, and the second argument is then just captured. And I would do this one more time because it's, you know, it looks a bit magic. So just to make it that short. There's also, for rather simple, let's say, pattern matching expressions, there's a way to convert these to access expressions. So for instance, you know, I would never write it like this to check if an array has the length of 2. So you might want to decide to convert it to args.length equals 2, you know, easy enough. The next on my list is raw strings. So also let's dive in here. What I want to show here, yeah, exactly. So many of you, including me, we have code like this. You know, we have a verbatim string and then have some escape JSON inside there. And it doesn't really look nice because it's all way to the left, you know, not greatly indented, and yeah, not great. So people like me will appreciate the new context action, which helps you to convert verbatim strings, or actually also normal strings, I think, or regular strings, to raw strings. Yeah. So this will look like this afterwards. Way more readable, no escaping inside. I will switch between those two a couple of times. Very readable, and actually, if we dive a bit further, you can also see that we can define through language injection that this is a JSON string, and then you get a little bit of, you know, completion, maybe not in JSON, but in other languages like in HTML, for instance. Here you can see that both tags are highlighted, and yeah, that's it. For raw strings, there was one more thing. Let me remember. List. Yeah, actually, you can also use C#, but I will show you C# language injection in a different example. That's not the one here. So there's also, not coming from us this time, a string syntax attribute where you can define the language which this parameter is receiving, what it should present. Yeah. And I think, is this only, this might be only available in Rider. So let me switch over. I didn't see this before. Language injection. Yeah. So currently only in Rider, apparently. But with that with this attribute, we know that the string that we can pass is C#, for instance, and then you also see we have keyword highlighting here, a bit of more help in terms of completion sometimes. Yeah, sometimes not. I know there's one bug, unfortunately, but I'm not sure if it's just for me. So I still have to investigate them. Okay, I think that's it for raw strings. Let me go back here just to see. Plenty of things we covered last time already, so many of the string features that we already have should work with raw strings, and yeah. Ref fields scope keyword, we also have support, but I will not dive into this because I think it's pretty niche. Same for unsight right shift operator. Right shift operator, you know, I will do it short. That's a feature. And watermarks for global usings. Yeah, that's a nice one. So you may remember C#10 introduced the concept of global usings. So you usually, I think that's the de facto standard to have a global usings.cs file where you put those usings, and those are valid for all the other files. So if I go somewhere here, then I would automatically have the contract annotation attribute, although it's coming from, you know, JetBrains annotations, etc. And that is because it's in this file. Now, of course, this can be a little bit tricky because sometimes you might not know which namespaces do I have available, and that is where this gutter icon comes in helpful, comes to help. Because once we click that, you can see we have all the directives that are imported from global usings in this case. That's it. Oops, let me go back. This one is a generated file. This one is the menu file that we have here on the left. And you can see we have both these system runtime and JetBrains annotations. What's really interesting, if you ask me, is that for the generated one, we even jump to the definitions in the CS project file. So system math, for instance, will jump to the CS project file because you can define global usings also there Yeah, and that's a pretty nice feature, I think. Where this also helps is, but I don't have a project open right now, is for Blazor, for instance. If you have these, Khalid, how is this file called? Underscore imports something?
Yeah, it's view imports. Yeah, I think
View
so.
imports. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for that scenario, it's also pretty helpful. Okay, jumping back to Rider here. Another thing that we added is machine learning code completion. At least for C#, it's now added. I can't show you much, unfortunately, because it takes a while until it adapts to your usages. So what you get is a pre-trained model, but which is still influenced by your usage as you code, basically. But something that you can see is once you enable these two check marks here. Let's go to postfix templates. And then you type something, then you will see, okay, my screen is it's hiding. Let's try again. Okay. Yeah, so here you see those little arrows. It's obstructing because I have such a narrow resolution right now. But then you see which items got promoted, which got depromoted, or is that a word? And yeah, so as you code, this should change a bit and adapt to your usage. Format string completion, very simple. .NET received a couple of new types, interesting types, if you ask me, particularly date only and time only. And maybe you've missed that before, but every time you use toString and have these, need to provide these formatter identifiers, they're called, then you get a list of examples, and you can just complete, and it also, just as you would expect, it makes sense. So for date only, you get date specifiers, for time specifiers. And of course, we also have this for int 128 and the half type. Patterns to expressions we had already. Yeah, the last one from my side is another postfix template. So people who know me know I'm a big fan of postfix templates. Plenty of examples. I will just show you the one that was added. I had this case plenty of times with String Builder and Stream Writer, because for me they seem a bit similar, as you can append a line or write a line, and with String Builder this is easy or nice because you can just chain it, just like a Fluent interface, etc. Stream Writer is a bit different, because here you can see write line almost the same. But for me, I always think, oh, isn't that Fluent as well? Yeah. So if you write something like here and you just want to continue, then this postfix template now shows a void template. And what this does, okay, usually you have this on the same line. And what this does is just to give you a visual cue that there's no way to continue this call because it's void. Yeah. And just that you don't need to go back or delete the key or delete the dot. Then you can just hit enter, and caret is placed after the semicolon, and you can continue coding whatever you wanted, and usually then, for me, it was always writing the same line again. Okay, that's C# covered. Do we have any questions? Yes, there will be a section about F#. Khalid is covering that. But otherwise, questions? Oh yeah, Visual Studio on a Rider release party. I wanted to say this, but I forgot. All the features that are shown in ReSharper also work in Rider. And actually, we have both logos, if I remember correctly, on our slide. So yeah, we cover both. Any question that I missed? I think not. Then is Rachel the next one, right? Rachel ready for screen share? Yeah. Okay. You're muted. Still muted? No.
I kept clicking on mute and it's just like sitting there. Okay, we're good now.
It might be because
so
I tried to. It might be because I was trying to unmute you and then.
Oh, at the same
maybe
time.
just in
We're
time.
having like a little race condition going on there for a second, I guess.
Someone should fix that.
So I'll start with this one. It's probably not going to be the most popular one, but it's hanging out on our What's New page, just so that you know, if you are going back in time or if you have to support legacy stuff, and we do. There are some classic configurations for IIS for your classic ASP apps, right? Classic ASP.NET. So web forms, MVC, the older stuff, you get them for free. So they show up in here, and then you could come up and customize a little bit more as you need to. So cool. I don't necessarily need to run up a full instance of IIS on here. We just need to know that it's there. And then we'll move over to some of the other goody stuff here that we have. First off is if I'm working in new minimal APIs, if we have these things, right, you're going to have a whole bunch of mapping calls, right? So you'll have like map post, map get, map, all the different mappings to the HTTP request and response types. So with that, you might want to group them. And so we have the new map group in here somewhere there we go. So I have some groups in here, and just taking the little forecasts, weather forecasts that we had, made a little route for forecasts and then one for extended forecasts, which kind of looks like forecasts in paper and e-forecasts, but whatever, it's extended. And if I map group these, then automatically you're going to just see these by that prefix. So here I could see the extended forecasts, and if I scroll down in my endpoints window, I could see the regular forecasts. So that's a handy little thing to be able to determine exactly which is which, because then you don't have to keep repeating that string literal in the group or in the actual single route definition. Just put it in the group and you're good. So that picks it up and works quite nice. And everything else is the same. You could still double click and navigate. You could run here from the HTTP client window. That all works as it did before, just that we can now more easily figure out what's going on with the groups, right? So that's one of our really cool things that we have going on. Another one would be if I come over here to say a Blazor app and I want to debug, I could do that. And we had a little bit of debugging before where I could come in here and just like set a breakpoint, run my debugger. This always takes like way too long, doesn't it? Anytime anything is more than a fraction of a second, it's a little too long. Not only can we debug Blazor apps though, but we can also do the new hot reload stuff. So it's been kind of a pain in the butt. As you can see here from clicking debug, and this is pretty normal. It has to go and load up all the debugging symbols and all that good stuff. But then if you make a change, you don't want to have to go all the way back. Let's go to forecasts or fetch data. Oh, there we go. It just came up here. So I don't want to have to go like all the way back and forth. If I'm debugging, I just want this nice little debug experience here where I can walk in and out of my breakpoints, et cetera, et cetera. But also I'm going to have other things that I want to load and work with, right? So I come in here and I run this through the debugger, but then I might come to a .razor page and actually make some changes. And this would work the same in Razor Pages or MVC because, again, this is all on the same platform. But maybe I need to come in here and change something in the UI or some other code. And just make a little change. We're going to notice a little bar, and it tells me like, hey, I noticed you changed this. Okay. I'll say apply changes. I could continue without, but I don't want to. I want to apply the changes. And then once I do that, you see a quick little pop-up, And then when I pop back into my weather forecast data, you're actually going to pick that up and refresh, and automatically I have my hot reload. Or sometimes if it goes a little slow like this, I just like to call it the lukewarm reload. But nonetheless, I don't have to keep stopping and starting, and that's a nice thing. We totally want that. So hot reload is kind of the new hot thing for right now. One of our other web-focused features are, we had the code vision, of course, throughout C# and some of the others, but now we get some of the cool code vision features in TypeScript and JavaScript. So here I just have a little JavaScript script, and it calculates some days in between the dates, and I have called it a few times, and here I could see as I hover over each of these entries where exactly it is. I can navigate between them. And as you can see with the code vision metadata, it does give me the different usages and a nice little panel of controls, how I want to view it, where I want to view it, and a little bit of configurations as well if I want to do the whole project or set the scope permanently. So I'll just let it at my entire project and with the defaults, but you might want to come in there and customize this as well. So this is a very nice little thing that we have. So JavaScript and TypeScript are behaving a lot more like C# as far as code vision and being able to navigate. Another nice little thing we've added in for any kind of web project, really, any ASP.NET thing, is user secrets. Not that they weren't there before, but now we have them built in. I keep going to add user secrets, but it's tools.NET user secrets. So I can just do this from the root of my app, and it will create the secrets.json file. And I could just do one of like two things. I could just come in here and like copy a secret, just do a JSON, you know, like the name of the secret, the key, and then the value. Or if you're already using secrets, you are probably used to doing like the .NET user-secrets command, kind of like the other .NET new and other .NET CLR commands. So I could also do that, and it works just as fine. So I could come here to my Acme API and make sure I'm in the correct root. Yep. Okay. And then I could just run my .NET user secrets, and then tells me, shows right up in here. So if I use the command line either in here or out in the actual command line or through the terminal here, it's going to show up in secrets.json. And as I see the secrets here, if you hover sometimes, it just showed it before, the path to where it goes in your user's account and all of that stuff. So you can keep your secrets here, work with them, and do notice it is tagged so it isn't considered part of your project because it puts it under your roaming data or local data. I forget which one it goes into. I think roaming data. But as far as managing it goes, here you go. Just set up your JSON with a couple of clicks. You can also continue to use the CLI and bounce back and forth smoothly between the two. So that's a pretty cool thing too. So it's a nice, easy couple of clicks just to get secrets set up in Rider. And then again, you know, these things also work in, many of these things work in ReSharper as well. So some of our stuff. The last thing that I have that I want to talk about is over here if I have, say, an Angular app. And this could be part of another solution, or in this case, I just happen to have a standard standalone Angular app. And it could be React, Vue, any JavaScript front-end kind of thing you've got going on. Anything where you're going to have to do like front-end work with JavaScript, TypeScript, and using like NPM and Node. So if you have any of those things, and here you can see this is all just Angular, TypeScript, none of the .NET stuff going on, although it could be part of a .NET solution. One of the things that we have is automatic edit configurations added. So for this particular one, I would have created it using the .NET CLI or Visual Studio. So let's say somebody else created this in Visual Studio and I open it up in Rider, and that's what I did here. And I wanted to be able to run it. Well, I wouldn't be able to without one of these run configurations. And Rider now automatically creates it. So you will see it in here with the correct icons, correct configuration, shows you the node interpreter, all of the good information that you need to be able to start and configure launching this TypeScript or otherwise a JavaScript project. So we have these configurations as well to go with this particular type of project. So I think that's all I have. And we could kick it back to Matthias and whoever else is next.
I do have a question from the chat. Not too sure
Yep.
because I don't know the web stuff. But Christoph, I hope I pronounced that name correctly. Is there any chance to see run, debug, yes, playwright tests in the test explorer?
I don't know if we have anything for playwright tests because that's an automated testing framework for JavaScript. So that's one of the, it's kind of like Selenium or WebDriver where it like records and replays your stuff as far as I understand. And I don't know if we have anything in there for this.
I mean, we do have support for things like Karma and Jest, and we did just release VTest. So like if you're writing your tests using VTest, those will show up in our test runner for like WebStorm integration and stuff like that. So that said, I did tell Christoph to go talk to Paul Everett, who's kind of our WebStorm advocate right now, to get more details on that. So
yeah, I'm not sure that playwright, I don't do a lot of playwright, so I don't know if that really supports those or not. So
yeah, go talk to the WebStorm team.
Okay, Matt, you're next, I think.
I think it's me again, yes.
The part everyone was waiting for, gaming.
Gaming. I'm just going to sit here and play games for a while now. This is going to be good.
I'm so jealous.
Actually, it's not, because I'm really bad at games. This is rubbish. Right, let's get my screen back on. And we're going to dive straight into some Unreal and some of the support that Rider has got for Unreal Engine development. I'm going to do this one first because I've got far too many IDEs and game engines running at the moment, and I need to close something down. So we'll start with this. I've got a Unreal running. I've got my project already open, and one of the first things I'm going to show you is we've got a new way of attaching the debugger to an instance of Unreal. Now, I think Lee just showed us the attach to process, and we've got, the new attach to process dialog, which we can use to attach the debugger, and we can, filter down, and we can find things like that. We can attach with a native debugger, which is quite useful, but we always have to filter down and so on. What we can do instead is use the Unreal icon in the toolbar up here. And this toolbar is available on the current UI and the new UI as well. It shows us that we're connected to this instance, the running instance of the editor, through the Unreal Link plugin. So we can do lots of fun, interesting stuff. But we can also now, we've got this attached to Unreal Editor, and we can just click that, and we can then automatically attach the debugger. We know what the process ID is. We don't have to go hunting for it. We're already attached. We know all the details. We can just attach the debugger and get working there. And you can see now as well with the new UI, when we are running an application there, we've got it all sort of highlighted in green up there, and we can then a nice big stop button then to stop the process while it's running. I don't want to stop it just yet. I want to show a couple of other things. Firstly, we've got some new support for blueprint usages, which is really useful. Just want to make sure we can see this. Now, we've got this code vision link here next to blueprint callable functions. And so for those who aren't aware, you can define classes in C++, which have got properties and functions which can be called from the Unreal editor itself. And that's sort of stored in serialized data as part of your Unreal game. And you can see all this information from the Unreal editor, but the code is living in Rider, and this kind of code vision that we've got here brings the two together here, so we can actually see where these things are being used. And so we've got a function is targeting, and we can see that it's being used here now as part of this hero animation blueprint. And if I click that, because we've got the connection to the Unreal editor, hopefully it will bring up the blueprint editor for us. There it is. It's all running a little bit slow because I'm streaming. I've got Unreal running. I've got Unity running. I've got a couple of IDEs running, and it's all good fun there. But you can bring up the we can see the usages, and we can bring up the editors, the blueprint editors, right from there, the editor itself. Oh, and that's the debugger. We don't want that to actually stop. Let's just leave that running and minimize that. Is my IDE? I think I've just killed my IDE as well. Well, that was handy. I managed to show the editor running, and then I closed it just in time. So that's perfect. The next thing I wanted to show you, which was another good thing, is the support for renaming items as well. So again, with this blueprint type feature here, if you rename a function, that function name is currently serialized within data as part of the Unreal editor. And if you rename it, you can break some of your references there. So Unreal allows you to have redirects, core redirects, which will, as the data is being unserialized, deserialized, it will fix those names up for you. So if I just go to, yeah, it is targeting there. And if I just rename that to something else, let's say is pointing, okay, why not? When you do a rename there, we will see that the value is being used in a blueprint information, and if we're not careful, renaming it can break our data there, so we can actually add a core redirect here. And if we click next, it runs through the refactoring, updates our C++ code, and if I pop to the commit dialog here, we can see our default engine.ini has added a core redirect from is targeting to is pointing. So it's a nice way of being able to still make use of the proper refactoring functions that Rider can give you, and yet not break your code, which is, you know, always a good thing. Right, next thing then, Unreal Build Tool. We've got a log view for the Unreal Build Tool here, which is really useful. One thing we've added in this release is timestamps. So as you are, as the Unreal Build Tool is running for you, you can see the timestamps of when it runs, and we can see that it runs several times, and we will kind of keep the log there. So it's not just the first time it runs, but every time it runs as well. So if I just jump to shooter game build.cs.
The link region is too long, I think, isn't it? Do you see this? The 16 also has underlining.
Are you actually pointing out a bug live on air? Honestly. Yeah, we don't talk about that bit there. It is. This is there's a small bug going on here. So we've got the link. Oh, there we are. We link to the files there, so we can see that the shootergame.u project, and we can click on that and open the file. Unfortunately, we also grabbed the 16 from the timestamp there, and now that's going to take us and navigate.
Okay, that's nice. You have the VI plugin installed, right? Because I see it with the jumping lines, the line numbers on the left. Anyway, sorry, I was distracting.
Yeah, shush. Stop spoiling it. So Unreal Build Tool. So if I do, if I make a change to the CS file and do that, we run the Unreal Build Tool again, and again, it sort of automatically does that, gives us the timestamp, so we can then see what's going on and keep a track of everything, which is very useful. So let's just close that. Another useful little thing here is our generate GUID action. I should catch up. There it is. It now gives us the GUID in the format that we want to be able to use for Unreal, and it doesn't give us this in non-Unreal projects, but it's useful that it's here and selected by default as well. So very useful for when you want to add in extra GUIDs. And then let me just close that down and pull this window over, because a couple of other things that I just want to talk about rather than sort of demonstrate. We made some changes to auto imports. So if you are using a symbol in a different file, we'll add a hash include for you automatically, but we've been doing some fine tuning of that. And by default, we will, you can decide whether or not to include system headers and whether they are suggested or not. By default, they're not suggested, but you can flick a switch there and get those added as well. And then finally, for Unreal, we've got improved support for the U project system. So I'm running on
Okay, I think
U
now.
projects.
Oh,
Am
Matt, you were
did
gone.
I just drop out?
Yeah, for 5 to 10 seconds, something.
Ah, that's no good. So just to recap, just in case I missed it, the auto import section, hash includes, we will add a hash include directive for you, depending on if you're using a symbol from an external file. By default, we ignore system headers, but you can use the checkbox there so that we will use system headers if you want. And then finally, for Unreal, we've got support for improved support for U project files, and there. So we've got extra features there. If you want to read about those, it's in our What's New page. Just search for Rider What's New, and there's a few extra features there as part of U project and U plugin. So that's Unreal. We'll have a quick look at some Unity stuff. A few very nice features been added for Unity. First one is support for the input system. And this is really nice because we can see things like the onAttack method here and onToggle pause. We know that these methods are being used as part of the new input system. And you can do that by seeing that we've got this asset usage count as part of the CoVision link at the top there. And clicking that shows us that Player Warrior has assigned is using this callback as part of its input actions, and we can also then take it back to the input actions file as well. So where you've got your definition of your attack button, so if you can define this particular button is going to attack for you, then we can actually see where it's being used as well. So you can do, if you defined an input action of attack or toggle pause, you can then sort of click on those, see where it's being used both in the prefabs or your other assets, and also the input actions there as well. A couple of other nice features. I just need to switch projects. Let's just close that fella. And we're in boat attack. Another one we've got here is really nice features is for resources.load. So let me just jump to app settings. So we've got, again, Unity makes quite a lot of use of magic strings, and we kind of have to know that these values are correct. And Rider provides a lot of support for some of these things. We've added support for resource paths as well. So where you're doing using resources.load, you can now see these as code completion items there, and you can just complete them. You get the suggestions for you. You can make sure that they are correct as well, so you don't have to keep on looking them up. You don't have to spell them correctly. We'll just take care of that for you, which is very nice. Similar sort of thing, if I jump to Race Manager, we've got find with tag. We've supported tags for a while now. We've extended that now to work with GameObject.findWithTag. We can make sure that those values are correct, and if they're not there, we actually get a little warning there to say that the tag's not defined, and we can then just do autocomplete and fix that up there, which is again very helpful. Next thing I want to show you is really quite useful. I've got the project open here. What I'm going to do is just quickly create an empty game object. So let's add that into the project there. And now I'm going to try and, in fact, let's just, my new tag, let's just have something that I want to commit. And now I can add that into my staged area, made a cool change. And when I commit this now, well, in fact, before I do that, what we've got here are some checks for version control. So if you're about to check in via version control, we'll do a couple of useful checks that Unity stuff is correct there. So one of which is we check unsaved Unity state. So we've got a connection with the Unity editor there. And if I try and commit now, I actually get a message to say that I've got unsaved changes in Unity. And so that's because I've created my game object, but I didn't save it. So it knows that my state of the Unity project is unsaved. We've had this in there for a little while. We've extended it now to work with saved with scenes, in-memory objects and assets and everything there. So you should now not lose any state because you forgot to save the project. And from the button here, you can commit anyway, or you can cancel. So let's just quickly cancel that, because we've got another useful change, whereby if I create a new directory here, my new directory, and we've got a new directory there. If I just show all files, down here, we can also see that we've actually got a meta file created for that directory. And if I go to commit, let's just make sure everything's staged, then we can see I've got a meta file here, but it's for an empty directory. And Git doesn't really support empty directories. And so that's not going to be quite useful either. So if I, tell you what, let me just undo that change. Unity, stop recompiling. Well, let's just commit anyway.
Now I'm curious what happens next.
I know, this is going to, the suspense. So if I just undo that change, so we don't have any unsaved data there, but if I commit now, we get a little notification down the bottom here to tell us that we're not going to commit because we've got empty directories. And this empty directory isn't indexed by Git, and therefore we should remove this redundant directory meta file as well. So if we just pop back into that, and if we go back to our directory, wherever I put it, my new directory, delete that, and we go back, we'll see that we've already deleted the meta file, and then we can commit that and everything's fine. So we've run through all of our Unity checks and make sure that everything's good. So it's trying to keep you and your source control nice and clean. Okay, so one last one to show, which I think is really nice. If you're working with packages and you're wandering around and looking at, let's say, addressables, and you navigate into something, let's just hide those meta files again, into a file here, which is part of your read-only packages. We've now got a little banner at the top here saying that this file is part of the Unity package cache, and if you make any changes to it, then there's a good chance they're going to be lost. They're not going to be checked into source control. They could easily get rewritten when you switch back to Unity and it just refreshes. So it's important not to make changes into the read-only code. And we just show you a little warning now to make sure that you know what you're doing. And then finally, again, we've got a couple of little things as part of Unity. Where are we? We're up here. Yeah, a couple of useful things here. Been some improvements opening exceptionally large projects, improvements to a performance there, so that if you've got a really large project, we can open up project larger, quicker. And also some initial support for dots. So we've got some various classes which implement iBake or iAspect or whatever. They are no longer marked as unused. We've also got a nice little change whereby this has been sort of requested. We do checks on the naming suggestions for serialized fields. You can now disable that completely and have them treated just as normal fields as well. And we're all good as well. And if you're using Nintendo Switch, we've got a nice debugging fix in there as well, which was given to us by Unity, which is contributed by Unity, which is very nice. And that's me. So I'm going to hand over to Khalid, I think, now.
Yeah, thanks.
Unless we have any game questions.
I have a question. Why are there no, if there's any files, why are there no Audi files? I'm just saying. No, I'm just joking.
I think we'll just leave I think we'll just leave tumbleweeds for that one, really. You know, it's
all right, it's fine. It's fine. Is my screen sharing?
I added you.
Okay, cool. So yeah, there's been a lot of conversation, and I'll be showing a database project. There's been a lot of conversation in the chat around Entity Framework Core. I do have an Entity Framework Core demo here, but first I'd like to really talk about a new feature to proper.NET. I know Packet, which is another package management system, already has this feature, but now it's part of NuGet as well, which is central package management. I actually wrote a good blog post if folks want to go check that out on our official JetBrains.net blog. You can actually get a working example and some files that I'll be showing here. So Definitely recommend going check that out. But the problem with NuGet has always been kind of package version drift. So the most popular package in our entire ecosystem is Newtonsoft JSON, right? And one project might have one version number and another project might have a different version number. And then some weird bugs start to kind of appear in your code base. With central package management, now you can just add this MS-build props file, which will be used across your entire solution. And you can actually manage the package version numbers in one central place. So you can kind of see the format here. And if I was to bring up the NuGet tool window and go to my database CS_proj file, let's see here, manage NuGet packages. You can see that there are version numbers here. But if I drag this CS_proj file into the editor, you'll see all my package references don't actually have any version numbers. So I can also see that NuGet is telling me, hey, you can actually update this version. So if I go ahead and update it, I'll get this little tool window, hit upgrade. And you can see there's no version number here. But if I was to go back into props, you can see that I upgraded to 7.0.1. So that's central package management. Read the blog post. I go into a lot more detail there, and I also have references for the official documentation from Microsoft. So there's a lot of configuration possibilities here. You can opt out of central package management for specific projects if you have a particular dependency that maybe can't be upgraded at the time that you're migrating to central package management. Yeah, and there's just a whole slew of options. So the thing I'd like to add too with central package management, it's using the same NuGet tool window that you're kind of used to. So your experience inside of Rider shouldn't change too much, but it definitely makes things a lot better for larger solutions that maybe, again, version numbers are starting to kind of drift apart and you're running into strange compatibility issues. So yeah, central package management, that's pretty cool. The other thing that we've added, using third-party dependencies, whether they're directly from Microsoft, a third-party vendor, or open source, there's bound to be some kind of vulnerability eventually. I'll pick on Newtonsoft again, not because it's buggy, but because it's widely used and hackers are going to target the most popular packages to try to find those vulnerabilities. You can see in previous versions of Newtonsoft, if you go here and pick an older version that has a security vulnerability, you'll get these links. If you go to any of these links, you'll actually get a good readout of what the security vulnerability is. And sometimes you'll actually even get a proof of concept code snippet so you can kind of test out that security vulnerability for yourself. But if you're going through your NuGet packages and you see this vulnerability warning, it's probably a good idea to start upgrading some packages. Even though that might be a little painful, security is really important. Regardless of where your third-party packages come from, you probably should upgrade them. So yeah, those are kind of the improvements to NuGet. Check those out. Those are pretty cool. So let's get to our database project, because the first thing I'd like to show, I've written some unit tests and coverage tests. This is a really nice feature for anyone writing coverage tests and just kind of wants to understand what tests are covering a particular method or part of your code base. You can now right click any coverage report here and say show covering tests, and we'll actually show you the tests that actually cover and make up that coverage result. So you can go here, show covering tests. This one actually has two, and you can see them here kind of spit out. So you can actually double click and it'll open up your test session and take you to that test session so you can see if there's any output. You can also navigate here to the code base. So yeah, so you can use that. So if you're looking at your coverage report and you're kind of confused as to why you've hit a particular number, super easy. Just right click and say show covering tests now. So yeah. What's next on my list? So this is probably
I have a question. I
Yeah.
have a question. Maybe I missed it. You had this blue icon in the gutter mark. Where was this from?
Oh, this one?
No. Was it just me seeing this?
Let's see.
No, now it's gone. Just when I stopped when I started talking. Anyway.
Yeah, the demo gods are doing
like
things
like a leaf or something.
Oh, that's so in the README, this is maybe that's Grazie.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, that's just Grazie.
Okay. First time I see it.
For folks that don't know, Grazie is kind of our like text helper. It helps you fix things like grammar, spelling mistakes, reword sentences. So I typically have it when I'm doing markdown files. It's pretty neat. So I definitely recommend it. Go download Grazie. If you're doing markdown stuff in our editors, it's awesome. But anyways, so the biggest feature that I think for me as a macOS user, Matt and Matthias, I guess Rachel, you're Windows. So she's already had this experience for a long time. So I no longer have to be jealous of Windows users. We now have dot memory profiling on macOS and Linux. So let me shrink some things so you folks can see more. I have this database project, and in my program.cs, I have a bunch of queries that I'd like to run, just link statements, nothing really wacky. But I've loaded this database with a lot of records. If I go in here, right-click my project, go to More, Run Debug, I now have .trace, which is run database with profiling. So if you're looking for trace data, this is good. But now on Linux and macOS, we have run database with memory profiling, which is .memory now, which is super awesome. This is technically really cool too. The way we do it is we actually use Avalonia to kind of get those UI elements that have primarily been WPF into Rider, which is really cool. So shout out to the Avalonia folks. It's pretty awesome. So when you start debugging, you'll have the option either between full allocations, which will actually slow down your application to capture every kind of step of allocations. You typically don't want this unless you're really, really trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sampled allocations is closer to kind of like a real world situation, and you'll get the information you need. So I recommend starting with sampled allocations. And if that doesn't help you find the issue, then go to full allocations. But for this demo, since this is like a really short application, I'll just go with full application or full allocations. And my application's running. It's running a bunch of database queries. And you can kind of see what's happening in real time in the application. We have a really nice key over here, and these yellow boxes is kind of when garbage collection is happening. So if you're seeing a lot of garbage collection in your application, that's a hint that something has gone horribly wrong. It's not always, but it potentially is a problem. The other thing you can do is you can highlight a section, and you can see the allocations that have actually occurred within that time span. And this little yellow icon here, if you click it, will actually open up .memory, like the .memory session. So we show you types, methods, call tree, subsystems. I know I'm kind of going fast. I'll slow down a little bit. But We also do a breakdown here, a nice little chart that you can kind of hover over. A thing that you might want to do when you're kind of doing memory profiling is maybe sort by the number of objects. More often than not, string is always going to be at the top of the list. But you want to scroll down and look for objects that maybe you have control over. So I have products in my application, and I see that I have 7.1 thousand allocations for this object, which is probably not good. The other thing you can do right now is you can also bring up the Stack Explorer, Stack Trace Explorer. Let's see. It's 2 words. I always forget. Oh, there it is. So analyze stack tracer thread dump. And since I copied this to clipboard, this is kind of what's in my clipboard. And now I can kind of see where my problems are. And you can kind of go through and click. Most of this stuff is happening in Entity Framework, so there's nothing really in here I can control. But I can click and go look at like the product class and stuff like that. So it's another thing. So all profiling sessions are typically stored here, so you can kind of go back and look at them. Here I have multiple ones. And you can kind of also load in previous workspaces. And yeah, there you go. Dot memory in Rider is pretty close to dot memory, but I know dot memory, like full dot memory, still has a bit more features. But we're working to kind of bring feature parity across. But this is a really, really nice first step to kind of giving memory profiling to folks on macOS and Linux. So give that a try.
So someone was saying before that the new UI looks so simple and the old one does impress people. So now you just run the profiler all the time and it just impresses people again with the new UI.
Yeah, I mean, if this kind of graph doesn't impress people, I mean, what is going to impress them? This is
particularly when it was running, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can just leave it run forever, and this thing will just kind of keep going. But super cool stuff. It just gives you a really good idea of like what's happening in your application. And dot memory and dot trace are great tools. And now macOS and Linux users, you have access to both of those things. So that's pretty awesome.
Khalid, there are 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Is standalone dot memory also available for Linux? If I'm not mistaken, no, right?
No, not currently. So the issue right now with bringing those standalone tools is they're actually using WPF components, and the W in WPF is Windows, right? So right now the team is looking to kind of recreate those components using Avalonia. So there's no particular timeline, but as we make progress, there is a possibility, but no promises for me or anyone right now, but it's definitely something we're exploring. Yeah. So, yeah, but I guess to that question, if you do need dot memory or dot trace on Linux, we do have command line versions of those tools where you can run them on Linux, capture the memory profile session or the tracing session, and then you can import those into the dot trace or dot memory UI, so you can do your investigation in a Windows machine. So we do have those tools there. We just don't have the UI tools in those ecosystems. So yeah. Did you say there was a second question, Matthias?
Yep, right. Why is memory graph not enabled by default like in other IDEs?
Memory graph. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Me neither. So Alex, if you want to clarify that.
Well, I think it's more that we have to do a profile. You have to choose to do profiling rather than having the profile show up as part of the main application run. But we've got dynamic program analysis for that, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking maybe they meant DPA, which is typically enabled by default. Like and that works on Windows, Linux, and Mac. It's actually the next thing I was going to show, which is now we have DPA for SQL connections, which is super awesome. I know there are folks in the chat right now doing a transition from Entity Framework 6 to EF Core. And they're finding it challenging, and maybe this tool can kind of help them find the issues in their code base. So let's go to our application here. So again, this isn't really a real world app, but it kind of shows you the problems you potentially could have writing Entity Framework Core. Here I'm doing an unbounded to-list call. Here's another one, potentially another one. So I'm doing a lot of bad things here. If you have this in your code base, you might want to address these issues. This one is the worst. So if you're running an online system and you're just getting all the products that exist in your universe, this is going to be bad. But let's run it and see what happens. So I'm running my application. I'm getting database queries. Oh, we only have 6 cheap products. So I'm running the world's most expensive store, apparently. Oh, man. Maybe I should just start an online store. I could maybe not have to do this advocacy stuff anymore. No, that's fine. I love it. So yeah, I was able to run this. If you go over here, we have our dynamic program analysis tool window. If you open that up, you can see that we've actually found 3 database issues. This one call alone retrieves 10,000 records from the database, and we actually even show you what the SQL statement is that was detected that is causing this issue. Any DBA would look at this and probably get really upset at you because there's no use of an index here, potentially. We're not filtering this data, and we're also not limiting the amount of records that are coming back. So yeah, that's a problem. We probably should address that one. The next one, again, we're pulling 2,000 records out. That's not good. And this last one is 100 records. If you have a system and there's different types of thresholds that you want to configure, you can always go into the thresholds configuration tab and actually change these settings as well. So that's pretty cool. Right now I'm hitting the records threshold, but we also have support for like the amount of time a query potentially takes. If you're using SQL connection, if you're creating a lot of SQL connections, that's potentially an issue where you could get connection exhaustion. You want to address that issue really, really quickly, or your app is definitely going to go down. DB commands, so if you're running store procedures or any other type of command, yeah, those are detected as well. So if you're in here and you're kind of going through and you're looking at this, you can also click this highlight issues in code, and you'll actually get the queries highlighted. And you can see what the issues are. If you hover over, you'll also get a tooltip window that tells you what the problem is. So that's DPA for SQL.
That is really funny because I have seen plenty of people before already who were a bit confused about those highlightings. But yeah, if you hover and also really remember, I mean, those are usually, as far as I can tell, always good suggestions, and it really makes sense to investigate them. You know, or if it's just a test project, then just disable DPA. That's all. That also works to remove them. Or like Khalid said, removing the highlighting.
Yeah, if for some reason DPA is not enabled, it's this little upside down triangle. You can come in here and you can turn on or off certain things as well. So if this little icon, so if I disable it, you'll see all those things went away, and this triangle will kind of be, grayed out. So you want to come down here, turn on analysis, and now you have this feature. So pretty cool. Hopefully that kind of helps answer the question about the EF6 to EF core transition. But I know the user in chat right now is probably also looking for help with the actual syntax and queries being generated. And that's, I guess, not something we're currently doing, but anything's possible. So since we're in a database project, there are two new features, from the data grip team that have made its way into Rider. One of the first things is quick filter. So if you've ever had multiple databases that you've had to kind of manage in your tool window, you can now just start typing, and you can click this filter icon and we'll filter down specifically to that, which is kind of nice. So quick filter, that's something you can do now in the database tool window. The other thing the data grip team has added is regex pattern based schema filtering. So at any level, you can kind of come in here and if you're familiar with the database tool window, there's these little numbers telling you how many databases exist or how many schemas exist within a particular database, and so forth and so on. If you click it, you'll actually get the databases or schemas that you can check. But now, let's see here. Now you can actually modify that and customize it by clicking add a pattern. And when you add a pattern, it can be a wildcard or it can just be regex. So in this case, I just want all databases that either start with a B or an E. And if I do that, now you can see that I have two databases that are showing. You can also do that at the schema level. So maybe I just want, oh man, I'm doing regex on the spot. So yeah, now the schemas, I guess that didn't filter the schema, but maybe it cascades. So, but anyways, that's regex pattern-based schema filtering. If you're dealing with large databases with hundreds of schemas or dealing with server instances with hundreds or thousands of databases, that's just one more thing to kind of help you prioritize your database tool window. So that's really it for this database project. And now I'm going to transition into F#. So let's jump to our F# project. And I'll hide this database tool window. The first thing that we've added is better XML documentation support. So if you're writing F#, we now support these triple tick comments, but that's not super helpful, but it's nice. If you want the XML documentation, you add these triple ticks, and then you add a less than. That happened really quick. Let's do it again. So you want to type this, right? Triple ticks or triple forward slashes and then less than. And if you do that, we'll actually give you this completed XML documentation that a lot of C# folks are probably already used to, but now it's making its way into F#, which is kind of nice. So what I think is really cool is you can also do things like remarks in here. You get auto completion and stuff like that, which really makes your documentation a lot better. Here I have one down here, and you can see my summaries down here, but I also have like a code sample that I put in the remarks, and that gets rendered with text highlighting. Oh my God, I think a poster is just about to fall off my wall. So let's see if we hear a big bang. Oh no, there it goes. Anyways, the other F# thing that we've added, code completion for records. So I have a type here of customer. let's say I want to create a customer type. You can see, oh, why did I put a semicolon there? Not good. You can see that the record is not valid because I haven't satisfied all the fields on that record. Now in F#, you can just generate the missing fields and kind of go through and just type them. You folks aren't going to get my social security number. Sorry. I know you're looking forward to it, but it's not going to happen. So yeah, you can see we were able to kind of autocomplete that, which is really nice. All right. Alrighty. The last F# thing that I want to talk about is interface files. I actually asked the F#, I actually asked Don Syme like why folks would want to do this, because it's kind of confusing to me, but it kind of makes sense after his explanation. Let me see if I can wrap this. Here are the 3 reasons you might want to use an F# signature file. Encapsulation. You can allow a natural major unit of architecture. Like you can put that in a separate file and it's just easier to read. Another reason is you can pass these signature files to folks, and similar to C# interfaces, you can show them kind of what the surface area is, but not bog them down with the internal implementation of your F# modules. And the third one, which is important to us because we're in a ReSharper Rider webinar, you get some tooling benefits out of that. So here's our signature file. It just kind of defines what our module will look like with interfaces. And then we actually have the implementation file over here. If I go back to my F# file where I've actually started using the module, and I click a method, Rider will actually show us both the implementation file and the signature interface file. So I can jump to any one of them. I could jump back and then go there. So yeah, that's really it for F#. Our developer Eugene is really doing a great job with the F# experience. So anyone who's using it, definitely say thank you to him on social media. I think he's doing a great job, and the F# experience is getting a lot better with each release. So yeah, I think that's it for F#. I'm going to throw it back to you, Matthias.
Thanks. I think there was one question not necessarily related, but I will ask it anyways because maybe you know. Any chance to get F# or any chance? Yeah, I guess that's more a question for Eugene. I will anyway ask it. Any chance to get F# interactive with breakpoint context like for C#? So that apparently that currently doesn't work, like in an intermediate window that it considers currently active breakpoints. Yeah, we can ask Eugene, I guess, a bit later.
Yeah, we'll have to check it out too. Like the other thing too is like we moved from .NET 6 to .NET 7. This release does support .NET 7 completely, like you showed, Matthias. So it could have just been like a .NET 6, .NET 7 thing. We'll have to test that out and just see if it's still the case that doesn't work. So
yeah. All right. That was nice. As always, thanks to all of you. Thanks everyone for watching. I do have a couple of closing notes. That was not the right one. Yeah, here. So a lot of content that we presented comes from our What's New page. And here you see ReSharper being the its own product and also a background for Rider. But of course, a page for this also exists for Rider. So since we also not have enough time to cover all the features, definitely make sure to scroll through these. At least in Rider, you will also get these presented once you have the new version. Plenty of features. This time, I think not so much though. are usually coming from IntelliJ IDEA. So definitely also check this out. Data grip, Khalid was slicing this a bit, or how would you call it? Tipping on it. I don't know. And WebStorm. Yeah. So for each of these products, we have individual what's new guides. So just for you to stay informed for the future. But of course, next time we also would be very happy to welcome you here. Of course, yeah, that's, let's see, one thing I forgot. We also have the .NET blog, just like I said before, with a performance blog post from Martin, or Khalid wrote about NuGet central package management. Always good to check out. Usually I can say, because we have limited time, but in these blog posts there are plenty of times little, something that we cannot tell here, but little details that are still worth reading, worth knowing. And so yeah, make sure to stay informed and with us. And with that, if you're eager for more information, then blog posts, website, our Twitter handles. Make sure to follow our YouTube channel. The usual drill: like, subscribe, and hit notification bell. I think that would mean a lot for us. I think this time we had really great numbers. That was also nice to see. And yeah, thanks once more to our lineup today: Matt, Khalid, and Rachel. Thanks everyone for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.